Thanos would be proud.
I think we're representing the fact that nobody is unidimensional.
Right, exactly. Just because you like doing tech news doesn't mean you can't talk about sports.
I have a unibrow, but I'm not unidimensional.
Sarah Lane, would you like to read line 3 today?
I would love to.
You're the best. All right. Let's get rolling then.
All right.
In 3, 2.
Alex Ruzicka has supported independent tech news directly for just about a day. Why not be like Alex and become a DTNS member at patreon.com/DTNS.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, April 24th, 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
We do not have Scott Johnson because he's getting ready for his trip to Las Vegas this weekend for the Viva TMS Vegas event that I will also be at. But we're very blessed to have Nicole Lee, senior editor from Engadget, back on the show. How's it going, Nicole?
Hey, how's it going? It's good. I'm reporting from surprisingly sunny San Francisco. So
yeah. Roger was trying to feel better about not living there anymore. And you're like, oh, no, it's sunny and wonderful today in San Francisco.
Yes. That's right.
Well, folks, Nicole has got an interesting article she's been working on for Engadget about magazines and the unusually tech startup publishers that make them these days. But let's start with a few other tech things you should know.
TF Industries' Ming-Chi Kuo reports that his sources say that Apple will launch new AirPod models sometime between September and March. One of the models will have an all-new design as well.
Oh, no more cigarette butts hanging out of yours. AT&T lost subscribers in all its services except wireless last quarter. TV subscribers fell 544,000. DirecTV Now subscribers fell 83,000, but AT&T added 80,000 wireless phone subscribers, perhaps by telling them they were getting 5G when they weren't. I don't know. Warner Media operating income rose 11.6%. That also helped bolster total revenue to $44.8 billion and earnings per share of 86 cents.
A state court in Tamil Nadu, India, moved to reverse its ban on the TikTok app. The court had previously ruled that the app encouraged pornography and caused Apple and Google to remove both from their stores in India. The federal IT ministry will request that Apple and Google reinstate TikTok to their stores there. Doesn't appear that this latest decision will be appealed.
Yeah, so this might be the end of the road. ByteDance may have won this battle. And the Telegraph reports that during a National Security Council meeting, the UK Prime Minister has approved the use of Huawei equipment in non-core parts of 5G networks built in the country. A recent report by the UK's Huawei Cybersecurity Evaluation Center Oversight Board said it could only provide limited assurance that risks to national security posed by Huawei parts could be mitigated, but they did not recommend a ban, so this is consistent with that report. All right, let's talk a little more. Promise we won't talk about it every day, but we have a little more news around the Galaxy Fold, right, Sarah?
We do, and it comes from iFixit, and iFixit is they do good work. iFixit released the results of its teardown of the Samsung Galaxy Fold, calling the design alarmingly fragile. While the hinge seems sturdy, iFixit found dirt could easily get between that 7-nanometer gap between the bezel and the OLED screen. It said, quote, when closed, the screen is protected, but the spine is flanked by massive gaps that are opening picks hop right into, quote. This may explain what happened to the model at The Verge, and iFixit says you'll almost certainly be replacing the screen before long.
I think it's an important point because some people have said, well, Samsung said the hinge was sturdy and these things are breaking, but the hinge is not breaking. Those 200,000 repetitions of the hinge, those seem to be real, and the hinge is fairly sturdy. They just engineered too much of a gap here, and dust can get in. 7 millimeters, that's almost a centimeter. I know that means nothing to Sarah because, but it's like, third of an inch.
Yeah, I mean, get rid of the metric system and then I'll pay attention.
Please don't start us on that road. But that's a healthy gap. And it sounds like that combined with the fact that it's a plastic screen, which we all know people were pulling off the protective layer. It makes sense why this is happening now. Nicole, though, don't you think that this is something they would have expected to happen?
Yes, like this seems like after the Galaxy Note debacle that they went through, like how many years ago that was, you would think that they would double down on checking it and making sure everything worked well before handing it to reviewers who will tear it apart and who will examine every nook and cranny of this thing, and to sort of backtrack and say, oh, it's a prototype. No, you didn't say it was before you had sent it out to people. You can't just say, oh, that wasn't. I don't know.
I get when you send review units and you say this isn't the final production model, there may be some weird things. That's fair, right?
Sure.
And especially when it comes to software, that is often the case. We're like, well, there's this weird bug, but they said they'll fix it by the time the final software ships. But a hinge with a 7mm gap doesn't feel like something that, oh, we just didn't catch it. That's only the prototype, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That seems like something that would have been caught earlier in the design phase if they thought it was a problem. Apparently, they didn't think it was a problem.
Yeah. Feels like more R&D should have been done here.
Clearly.
More D for sure.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, it's pretty clear. Sure, the product may not have been ready for release, but there are these real world issues that people who were testing the product were like, yeah, something's up here. And I think that no matter how much internal testing you do, sometimes a company still can get that wrong. And it's not because they don't care, or it's not because they're rushing a product necessarily. It's because when you actually have real people who are using something, they will notice things that you just didn't notice because you were so kind of in
blinders are on a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's fair. I would say then Samsung should hire iFixit to test their stuff.
Yes, probably.
It didn't take them that long in the relative scheme of things to figure this out. At a board meeting on Tuesday, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the folks who bring you so many things, including the Oscars, voted not to change eligibility rules for feature-length films. Any movie that has at least a 7-day theater run with 3 showings a day minimum will remain eligible. That's been the rule. It's going to stay the rule. If you remember, Steven Spielberg had led a movement to try to maybe get that rule changed to increase the requirement for the theater run in order to disqualify some Netflix movies, which don't get the usual 90-day theater exclusive run. One change that was approved was renaming the foreign film category to international. I thought that was somewhat interesting. I don't know.
And that's probably the right move.
I guess. I don't know. You're basically, but aren't all the movies international?
Yeah. But it's
whatever. I don't want to get too hung up on that.
It's a little bit more of like a PC move than anything else. But Steven Spielberg was also called out as soon as he was part of Apple's latest rollout of their upcoming TV
Apple
and
TV Plus.
Exactly. That, it's like, oh, well, now we know why Steven Spielberg was railing against Netflix because he was in cahoots with Apple this whole time. And there's probably some truth to that.
I don't know. I think the Apple versus Netflix thing is overplayed. Not that they aren't competitors, but I think it is overplayed. I think Steven Spielberg feels like some of the Netflix movies, not Roma, but some of the Netflix movies deserve to be in theaters. And that movies that are given an Oscar should be the kind of movie that is best consumed in a theater. I think he honestly believed he was arguing something legitimate. Like Oscars should only go to movies that are meant for the theater, for the big experience. And Netflix has both. Netflix has some made-for-TV movie styles, and it has some theater styles. And if they have theater styles, they should prove that they're meant for theaters by marketing them first.
The Google Fit health tracking app is coming to iOS with full integration with Apple Health. Last August, Google focused the Fit app on smart activity goals created with the American Heart Association. Move Minutes tracks all kinds of physical activity. Heart points are awarded for things like brisk walks and workouts and at least 100 steps a minute. It also tracks steps, calories burned, and distance walked. Google Fit adjusts goals based on your progress. And on iOS, it can now pull data from the phone and Apple Watch, as well as from Wear OS devices.
I don't want to make too much out of this. It's not like we're in an open universe where everybody can make anything and it runs on anything. But it is nice to see this trend of the big companies, at least, making more of their stuff run on other stuff. So I'm an Apple Watch user. The idea that I could use Google Fit now to tap into that on an iPhone means I don't have to think about which device I own. I can own a Wear OS, I can own an Apple phone, I can own an Android phone, I can own an Apple Watch, and I can decide that Google Fit is my preferred way of tracking all this stuff. And I think that's good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as a consumer, that's a total win. Nicole, I don't know how much fitness tracking you're doing on watches or iOS apps or the like, but what's your take on this?
Well, I think it's definitely I think it helps both sides, to be honest with you. I think it helps Apple Health improve its product. Maybe they'll see something Google's doing that they're not doing, and they'll try to incorporate it or make their product better than Google's. And I think that's good for consumers in the end. And hopefully, both companies competition will help elevate features on both devices. And more importantly for me is that the idea is that you can use any wearable you want, whether you want to use a Wear OS or whether you want to use an Apple Watch or whatever it is, you can use it on hopefully any phone. Of course, I don't think this works on the other way around per se with Apple Watch on Android. I'm not entirely sure on that just yet, but at least this is one way to do it, and hopefully this will help open up conversations around cross interoperability on everything else.
Yeah, exactly. I like I said, I don't want to pretend like, oh, it's all good now, everything works on everything, but it's nice to see moves this way. And I like that Google is working with the American Heart Association and trying to come up with better ways of motivating you with, heart points and move minutes may sound kind of silly, but an easy number that you can see go up or down is a great motivator. Usually that's been steps, which is better than nothing, but steps aren't the best, most accurate way to measure whether you're improving your health. And this says like, oh, we're gonna separate certain kinds of activity from heart healthy activity so you can get a better handle on that. I think that's good.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, back in the day when we were all getting used to mobile apps and the fact that it's like, oh, you can do like Google stuff with an iOS, like great, they're all working great together. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. It's very complicated. But when it comes to these companies trying to further fitness apps, and let's call them watches in this situation, and all of the things that people can get used to using, and in many cases for their own health benefit, like real stuff. Like, this is not posturing on the company's parts. It's actual good stuff happening. Then I think we all win.
Yeah. Old guy says, who even knows what that means though? And the thing is, you can actually go in and find out what that means. The American Heart Association and Google define what the minutes mean, but in the day to day, you don't want to have to track 15 different numbers that's made up of. You want one score that you can have some confidence is giving you an idea if you're going in the right direction or not. Microsoft issued a support document saying its May 2019 Windows 10 update may not install on systems that use external USB storage or SD cards due to an inappropriate drive reassignment, and they will block installation when it detects those cases. Now, there's an easy way around this. You can remove your thumb drive or your external USB drive or your SD card, make sure that's all out of there, then restart May 2019 update, and it'll work fine. And then once it's updated, plug everything back in. If you're running Windows off a thumb drive, obviously you can't do that. And Microsoft does plan to address the drive reassignment problem in the future. One thing to note, this drive reassignment bug apparently showed up in the Windows 10 April 2018 update, although it didn't cause a problem till now. So if you have a version of Windows 10 prior to the April 2018 update, you haven't updated since then, you can update to the May 2019 update without worrying about this, even if you have your external drives plugged in and all of that. So a lot of people are trying to play this off as like, here we go again, Microsoft with a bug delaying their update, but it's not delaying the update. This is the new system working and catching a bug and being able to give advice about it before people actually get to the update, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in the camp of did not update before April of 2018. So this is, I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear about this rather than the alternative.
Yeah, Nicole, I don't know if this affects you at all, does it?
No, I don't really have. I mean, I do have a Windows machine, but I don't have any external USB storage or anything like that. So this doesn't really affect me. But this is a good workaround that they mentioned here, removing those media first before installing the update.
Slightly annoying, but at least you can do it.
Yeah.
UAV delivery company Zipline is expanding its unmanned aircraft deliveries to Ghana. If you're not familiar, it will deliver 150 different medicines, vaccines, and blood to 2,000 clinics in the country. Zipline drones can travel up to 160 kilometers at speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour. Zipline has operated in Rwanda since 2016, which is where you might have heard the story or the name at least before, and began rolling out service for Tanzania last year as well.
So yeah, I mentioned this when we were talking to Patrick about the Project Wing announcement coming to the U.S., and I don't think Zipline gets enough credit for having run an actual drone delivery service for real, doing important things for years, for more than 3 years. This is a real thing. Africa has had drone delivery longer than any other continent. I think I'm pretty sure. This has been the longest running commercial company. And I think it gets dismissed sometimes because people say, well, it's just limited. Oh, it's just medicine. Oh, it's just in Rwanda. Oh, well, now it's in Tanzania, but I don't know where that is. And I think this is really impressive. I don't think Zipline gets enough due for what it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nicole, you mentioned you were from Malaysia earlier in the show. What is the sort of drone delivery landscape look like there?
I don't think. Well, Malaysia has a lot more. What do you call that? Infrastructure.
Right.
More so than I think countries like this is supposed to cater to. So it's good there. I do think it's really important to have these delivery systems to remote areas in Ghana, not just Ghana, but anywhere in the world really that needs medicines and vaccines ASAP.
Well, we were talking before the show too, like all the attention gets paid to people wanting their burritos delivered. But suddenly when someone's delivering something much more important, well, I mean, a burrito is pretty important, but I think your medicine's probably even more important than a burrito. It gets
a burrito
dismissed.
Can be life or death, but yeah. Right.
And I think you'd be surprised. I mean, granted, yes, Malaysia has better infrastructure than probably Rwanda has, but I think you'd be surprised the infrastructure that's available. And I also don't think that if they had all of the infrastructure that would have solved this problem. I mean, obviously, we all want this drone delivery in places with heavy infrastructure as well for the convenience of it. Yeah. Well, folks, Zipline, go give them a pat on the back and say thank you for being the pioneer. That's what I say.
Absolutely.
To get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. So we have told you many times over the past year, if you've been listening close to DTNS, about tech companies doing magazines. I mean, years ago, CNET started a magazine that it still puts out. There's also Airbnb with a magazine we've talked about. We talked about Netflix putting out a limited magazine in advance of Emmy consideration to try to drum up support for its shows to get Emmys. Bumble has a magazine. The list goes on. Nicole Lee, you've been looking into this. Why are all of these tech companies turning to dead tree media? I thought the whole point was like, we got apps now. These startups are proving we don't need to read on print anymore.
Right. So I have a couple here on the video version here. This is Airbnb, beautiful glossy magazine. This Bumble, another beautiful glossy magazine. And these magazines are, I would say they're, if I didn't know they were from Airbnb or Bumble, like they're legit magazines. Like Airbnb is a legit travel lifestyle magazine. Bumble is a legit, female focused interest magazine. And I think it's really interesting because on the one hand, they're like a real magazine, like with real interesting stories and photos and all that. But they're also kind of marketing vehicles, right? Like these are basically, they're basically marketing Airbnbs around the world. They're basically marketing the app as far as Bumble goes. So it's kind of a twofold effort in terms of like, this is a magazine, a real quote unquote magazine, but also with this brand behind it, right? But it's just weird because, when I'm looking at Airbnb, does it make me want to use Airbnb? Maybe. I'm not entirely sure of that juxtaposition there. And the same thing that goes with Bumble, because I'm not in the need for a dating app, but this is more than just dating, and it has like tips for work situations, tips for toxic friendships in here, and so it's kind of a general interest magazine.
A lot of it, and I am holding my most recent copy of the Airbnb magazine, which actually came to the person that lived in my apartment before me. So it wasn't actually, it didn't actually come to me, but I enjoyed it. This is a nice magazine.
It's nice.
It's really nice. There's a lot of information here. You also get the sense that, and I have been an enthusiastic Airbnb user for years. I love the service, and I've definitely stayed in Airbnbs in cities all over the world. So I get the idea of it. At the same time, like any magazine, there are obvious kind of underhanded advertising handshake situations going on, right? Where it's like, hey, the coolest, best place to hang out in Austin, Texas. It's sort of like when you read an airline magazine on an airplane and you're like, okay, I get it. This is, you just
real articles, but we understand.
Real articles, yeah,
really,
but
you're trying to get us to want to travel more.
Yeah,
on their airline.
There's an agenda.
Yeah,
but again, that said, I'm like, I can't wait for my next Airbnb.
Do these things cost money, Nicole? I know some, like the CNET magazine, you pay for a subscription. They just launched that 4 or 5 years ago. But Airbnb, do they send this to you for free?
So that's the other thing, is that both Airbnb magazine and Bumble magazine, they partner with Hearst. And Hearst is a giant in the magazine industry. They do Esquire, Elle Decor, all of those things. So because of this partnership, that's why the magazine is so good. And that's why it has these beautiful articles. I mean, that's why there's the credibility is there. And the thing with Airbnb magazine is that they're charging for this. This is like, there's money behind this. According to Airbnb, it's $18 for a year subscription, or it's per issue. It's like $6 per issue. Like this is like $6.
Wow. That's pricey. I mean, if that wasn't called Airbnb, though, I probably wouldn't blink, because, Travel and Leisure and all those kinds of magazines are about the same, right? So I'm surprised they don't call it something else. Like Uber's magazine is called Vehicle, right? And that seems kind of like that's the route I would expect them to go. Like, let's just make it look like it's a really good car magazine. And guess what? It's actually, made by Uber.
Right. And but the thing with Airbnb is that they charge for it, but they're also sending it, obviously, as Sarah, you mentioned, they're also sending it for free to various Airbnb hosts around the country and so forth, as like a little like, oh, you're staying here for a weekend. This is like a nice little magazine to read about, just travel in general.
You can subscribe as a host and leave these out for your guests, I suppose.
So it's free for hosts and free for customers. The same thing with Bumble. I think it's only free. I think it's free for subscribers and so forth. So I think a lot of these do start out with the free model, but Airbnb is strange in the sense that they're charging for this, and I kind of want to say it's really like it looks like it costs money.
Yeah.
Well,
so first, then it's real journalists, real editors,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really genuine. And you mentioned Uber's Vehicle, and that one it's very limited. I think it's released only in Seattle and DC at the moment, and that's like a very limited focus thing. And according to what I don't have the actual physical copy with me, but from what I understand, it's very similar-ish. Doesn't have the same power of Hearst behind it, so maybe not as flashy as some of these magazines, but it does have a similar feeling in the sense of like they're asking journalists to actually write real stories about the area they live in, real recommendations of a local restaurant. Or
it's not just a vanity piece, right?
Right. So
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Airbnb model is perfect because, as you said, Nicole, you can have it on the coffee table when your guest comes in, and it's all part of the experience that they had signed on to initially. With Bumble, okay, well,
you bring it on your date. I don't know.
or I don't know, like maybe it's at the hair salon, or I don't know. There are definitely places where these things can be placed, but where they're placed very wildly based on the companies that they originate from.
Well, and that's my last question here is, we are seeing the decline of print. We're seeing magazines go out of business all the time. We're seeing magazine sections get smaller and smaller in the places that even still have them. So why is this a good idea? I mean, if they're pouring Hearst quality into this, that can't be cheap.
Oh yeah, I think this is totally. I mean, if you look at print subscriber numbers in the past years, I mean, they're not pretty, right? I mean, I think everybody knows this. But I think this is kind of part of Hearst's like money making strategy, because Airbnb is paying them really to like make these magazines, so it's kind of like another revenue outlet. You could kind of think of it that way.
What does Airbnb get out of it though?
Airbnb gets name recognition. They get name recognition. They get.
But if no one's reading magazines, how does that work?
Well, that's the older people who might be at an Airbnb are like, oh, cool. This is a real like this.
Right.
Look. Oh,
I don't know. I'm just wondering if it's like this sort of trend I've been tracking where millennials read print books more than we would have expected. Vinyl is on an uprise with the sale.
Well, there might be something to that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think according to some of the articles I've read, Airbnb's executives do say, oh, there's some kind of quality that print lends to the magazine experience, that print adds this quality to it. And I think they're sort of trying to add an air of legitimacy or air of like, specialness about their brand with the advent of these magazines. I think for Airbnb, it's kind of like a quality kind of like branding issue, I think. And of course, for Hearst, they're making money, right? It's better than losing money, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I still read Scientific American in print form, even though I can also get it. I get it on digital as part of my subscription. I just, every once in a while I'll read it in digital because I'm like, oh, I forgot to bring the magazine with me. So it's a nice backup. But there's something more relaxing about like, I'm just going to focus in on my print magazine when I read it.
Print magazine still their audience. Yeah. So, I mean, it's better. I mean, an iPad is one thing, but a real physical magazine is a whole other experience. Like flipping through it, it's a very different feel for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to get interrupted by a text message or an Amber Alert or anything. I'm ready.
I got an Amber Alert this morning. In fact,
there've been like 4 today in this
scared
area.
Me.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, the bejesus out of me. But
not that they aren't important. I'm just
saying. They're very important, and I always look at them. But still, when you're deep into tech news research, sometimes you're like, oh my God, what is happening with my phone? Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You submit all the stories, and you can submit more and vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
Let's check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. Richard wrote in and said, last year, my family and I stayed in Airbnb while on vacation. This is so apropos, Richard. I noticed a Google Home Mini on the counter, and the first thing I thought was, somebody could be listening to our conversations. Since this wasn't my own device, I was even more apprehensive about it, so I unplugged it right away, and I left it unplugged with a note for the host explaining what I did.
Yeah, I'm not going to accuse Richard of being overly paranoid. That's a perfectly sensible thing to do. If you're like, you know what, I don't want my conversations to accidentally trigger this and then get logged on an account that I don't have access to. That's totally fair. I get that.
I get that too.
But I found this TechCrunch article of a survey from Microsoft that said 41% of voice assistant users are concerned about passive listening. And the fact of the matter is, like, I want to make clear to people, these voice assistants aren't constantly logging everything you say in the room you're in with them. There is a short buffer that has been audited by security professionals that is only checking for the wake word and then discarding its data. Now, you can be paranoid and say, well, I don't believe that. But people that I trust have said, no, that's what it's doing. And it only actually logs things and sends it through the cloud when you say the wake word. Now, granted, like I said, you could accidentally say the wake word and have it log something. And that's why it's good that these have ways for you to go in and check and say, oh, you know what? I want to delete that. I want to delete that. And maybe that's why you might want to mute it or unplug it in Richard's case. But I don't want people to think like, oh, if you have one of these in the room, it's constantly recording you like a dictaphone going, because that's not
certainly. I mean, hotel rooms are, they're only going to increase putting either Echoes or Google Homes or the like in their systems as well, with the idea that it's going to help you as a person. So yeah, I mean, if you're paranoid, I think, Richard, you're not wrong. But again, yeah, it probably has a lot more to do with who your host is rather than what Amazon or Google is doing.
Yeah. Oh, and a quick note from Josiah, longtime listener and supporter. Thank you, Josiah. The reason we might see Project Wing being tested in Christiansburg, Virginia, is because that's the home of Virginia Tech. About 35,000 students there. He says they have unexpected advantages like a concentrated population, centers as far as population centers, educated population with higher income because of the university. So it may not be as surprising as you might have thought that that's where they're testing it. Thank you, Josiah.
Thank you very much, Josiah. And also thank you to Nicole Lee for being with us. Nicole, we missed you, and thanks for being back. Let folks know where they can keep up with all your latest work.
Yeah, you can read about this magazine, internet company, friendship, partnership issue on Engadget.com later this week.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that. Also follow Nicole on Twitter, twitter.com/Nicole.
Yep.
Our goal each month is to get one more patron than last month, and we're getting closer and closer to that every day. In fact, if we just have one more person sign up every day, between now and the 30th, we will have at least one more person than last month. And there is some cool stuff. Today, Roger has his column coming out, patreon.com/DTNS. And on Saturday, I'm going to, for the $5 and up users, post an editor's desk where I walk through all of the ways that I choose stories for the show when I'm helping try to decide the rundown. So if you're interested in that, become a Patreon. Sign up now at patreon.com/DTNS.
If you have feedback for us, our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. Find out more and tell a friend at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
All right, Rob.
Good name, Rob.
So it's really funny, but right now, the way my windows are overlapping, the only video I see is Otis's head.
Oh,
And
you don't
right now he just lowered it, but every once in a while,
in
I
my
just-
arms.
yeah, well, no, in the cage.
Oh.
The cage.
Like I have the audio hijack covering
cage is
part and the
open.
rundown covering part. So there's this one little spot of video, and I just see Otis's head raising up every once in a while.
Yeah, kind of like, are you talking about something I want to talk about?
Hmm.
Otis's cage is open. He is free to come and go. He likes it.
He
in
loves
there.
being in there. Yeah.
He does, yeah. Lucy weirdly really wanted to be part of the show at the end there. She was like, Nicole Lee is my very favorite.
She has a lot to say about magazines.
She does. She says, I'm into print.
Yeah. She's like, finally, something I care about.
Yeah. No iPad for me. Yeah.
No. Paper's always good.
She's actually just getting old and crotchety. Just wants to be all up in our business. But that's okay.
Well, we've got some title ideas being submitted at showbot.chatroom.net. Samsung steps into the gap. Netflix and Reed.
Maybe Samsung minds the gap.
That's what I submitted that one. Samsung minds the gap.
Yeah, or doesn't mind the gap.
Doesn't mind the gap.
Might be.
There's also Airbnb and Reed.
Ooh. I mean, I'm
Airbnb.
telling you guys, it's a good magazine. It is like, I mean, Nicole,
magazines are the
really
new vinyl.
Nice. Magazines are new vinyl. Ooh,
I like that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, let's go with that. Magazines are the new vinyl.
Perfect.
Actually, let's make it a question so that people are like,
Magazines
oh,
are
they
the
are
new-
Magazines
great.
the new vinyl.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Oops. Come on.
I'm putting
copy.
it into the rundown for you now.
Why no you copy?
Because I haven't finished writing it. Are magazines the new vinyl?
And GDI.
Oh, yeah. Was there a separate GDI suggestion?
I blessed the drones down in Africa. I think we used that one
That's
before that.
Zipline. That was in the show.
I feel
Bye,
like
Otis.
Oh, really? Where are you going?
It's like they picked the title. I'm done.
No, he says, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to I'm just going to move slightly behind you.
So
we were
much
talking
quality.
about we were talking about Valley Girls in the pre-show.
So much quality at
Oh.
Hearst.
Gag me with a
Gag me with a
Magazine.
spork.
with a
Gag me with a spork. Is a good one.
cloud-based drone.
Done. Gag me with a spork. It is.
Greg.
Gag.
Greg.
That's the guy who used to sell me barbecue corn chips. Greg.
Man, I meant to talk about this on yesterday's show, but I just bought a new printer that I'm very excited about.
You're into this laser printer.
Oh my God. Okay. So here's the backstory on this. I have an Epson printer and I still have it sitting right over there. Inkjet printer, inkjet printer scanner, for a long time. And it doesn't allow you to use special characters in the wireless. So at one point I changed my Wi-Fi password, as you should do every so often, to something stronger that used special characters, and then realized, well, crap, now I can't connect my printer to the Wi-Fi
seem like a
network
security
anymore.
problem?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not a security problem. It's just a usability problem. I mean, it's a security problem in that it encourages you to use a less secure password. For
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So whenever I need to print on it, I have to walk over and plug it in by USB, which is annoying. And it's inkjet. So you never quite know if the next page is going to print out correctly or not, or if you're going to have to change the ink.
Yeah. It dries out if you don't use it.
Yeah. So I found this. This was I actually found this on IO9, but also it's the Wirecutter's pick on the budget level from Brother. It's a compact monochrome laser printer, the HL L2350DW, for 80. I got mine for 89. Right now it's listed as 100 on Amazon, but I think it's still $89.99 on Walmart.com. But it's tiny, fits perfectly. It's a laser printer, so it's not going to dry out. It's not going to run out of ink. And it's wireless and it's fast because it's a laser printer. I forgot how much faster laser printers are.
Yeah,
we've gotten pretty fast.
I remember this one. I got one from my dad.
You got the same model?
I think I got I think it's the one that came before this, but it looks exactly the same.
Okay, yeah.
But I got it from my dad because it was recommended on PC Mag because he killed his Samsung laser printer.
Anyway,
and you make it. We were talking about this yesterday, where I was like, "Well, it's not a photo printer, though," and you were like, "Well, no, but I mean, I don't really need a photo printer."
And I still have the old Epson with the inkjets that I guess I could hook up and buy ink for if I really.
My old Epson, I had to print out a bunch of stuff for tax reasons, which definitely did not need to be in color. But all of my ink cartridges were out because I hadn't plugged in my printer for probably 3 years, and I mean it was $100 to get new ink. It's almost like it's a third of the cost of the printer in the beginning.
And the price for the price of your new ink, you could just buy this laser printer, right?
I know. Yeah, I know.
So
it was,
I don't know. I had to print some quarterly tax filings for the company, and instead of having to walk over, I could print them with right here, sitting here, and it was amazing, and it changed my life. So also they were so fast. I also printed something from my phone, and I was like, that's that's something that the other printer just didn't have the capability of at all, even if it hadn't had the password witness. So yeah, this is I'm pretty exciid about having a better printer. We're talking a lot about print today. I don't know why.
Print. There's something great about you get a new device and you're like, it works really well, and you just want to share the gospel with the world.
Yeah, I think so, because I know laser printers aren't new. This, and as Roger pointed out, even this Brother has had previous models. It's been around for a while. So it's not a revelation for anybody who hasn't also been in the same situation and done the same research. But
you're an influencer, Tom. This is your testimony.
No, don't even. You just take that back right now. How dare you call me an influencer?
Well, it's interesting. The most common thing people often kind of recommend are automobiles and a home appliance, like a washer, dryer, or fridge, or something. It's like, oh, I really love this car. It's great. even if it's something really ugly like a Pontiac.
You mean like
Aztek.
people talking to each other?
Yeah, like
Okay.
they're over like.
You're not talking about influencers anymore. You're just talking about
I'm
like
just talking about general
people get
like,
cars based on what other people tell them are good cars.
Yeah, like for example, you're at a picnic or a barbecue, and some guy's like, "Oh, I see you got the new Honda, whatever. Like, how does it drive? Oh, it's great. You know, it's very interesting."
Yeah, I also feel sometimes I'm a little bit of an oddity in the tech world because I don't really have to have the latest, coolest, best, most high spec. I just want things that
I don't
work.
think you're alone in
I
that.
am totally
very
like
much,
that.
Yeah, like I only want what I need.
I just want things that work. I don't want to have to troubleshoot.
That's the thing. Like having reviewed so many bleeding edge products back at Tech TV, there's a point where like I just need it to work. I don't
because I have this tiny little 27-inch monitor that I use, and sometimes people come over and they're like, "Oh, well, aren't you? I thought you'd have like big monitors." And I'm
27
like,
inch is not small.
No, but like nowadays, 34-inch monitors are all the rage, and the big wraparound.
It's not about the size of the monitor.
But this is like it. You know, this plays exactly into like I'm like I have a 28-inch monitor, and it's huge.
And I'm just like, you know what? It does what I need to do. Like every once in a while, I'm like, you know, it would be nice to have a little more screen real estate. Then I could see more than Otis on the video. I mean, I guess that would be okay, but it
I've been
works.
trying to get him to stand up this whole time.
I just moved to a 27-inch monitor. Now you're making me feel like
You're like, what do you mean 27 is small?
Make me feel like I just got into the market.
Yeah. My monitor's 7 years old.
Well, I will add my monitor's also a 4K monitor. But
yeah, mine is definitely not a 4K.
I mean, there was definitely a time, certainly in the Apple ecosystem where it was like, you know, newest and greatest and latest. And I still do play into that because I can say that it's for work and research. And it's also just the ecosystem that I've been in for a while. But the sort of breathlessness about getting the newest and coolest thing has worn off a lot. And, you know, maybe it's because we've been working in this industry as long as we all have.
Well,
but I'm like, I don't want a new iPhone unless I like really need one, unless my iPhone is breaking.
I'll use two examples from the chat room right now. GPEG earlier was like time for color laser. And I'm like, see? No, that's and I know these are just throwaway comments. It's not like GPEG's like pressuring me or anything, but this is sort of the instinct is like, oh, you got a monochrome, time to get an upgrade to a color. And W Scott S1 is like, you need one of those 21:9 widescreen monitors, right? Like again, I'm not picking on them for saying that. That is the normal thing that even I will say to people like, oh, you got that? You know, well, the next step for you is to do this. And honestly, it's like, no, just as long as it works, you don't need to take that next step.
No. What did we used to call it? The upgrade cascade?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You get
the upgrade parade.
It wasn't called the upgrade cascade.
I upgraded to Cascade. It keeps my glasses virtually spotless.
Oh, I can't. I did that one time, but I totally ruined the coating, the anti-glare coating on my glasses. So I only use dishwashing, not dishwashing, like not Palmolive or Dawn, like
in your dishwasher.
Not
no,
for
his glasses.
Oh, you used Cascade on your glasses. Oh, yeah, that's not good. But it kept your glasses spotless.
See, I don't have glasses, and that's why I can't read anything half the time.
Join us, Sarah. Join
us. I know. You know what's so funny? There's a Walgreens right down the street, and you know they kind of have those like cheap reading glasses, you know, that are by the pharmacy.
Right.
And I know that I need them, and I'm just dragging my feet because I don't want to wear things on my face. I don't even really like sunglasses.
Give in.
I know, but I put on a couple to read like small labels because I can't read labels. That's the problem. Like I bought,
those are the worst.
I bought some OxyClean the other day and I was like, how do I use this? I can't read it. I just can't read it. And true enough, those glasses really make all the difference, you know? And I'm like, I could buy $10 glasses here. I mean, I probably should get like a prescription, but like, I don't know. It's better than what I'm doing now.
I don't know. I am old man. Now I have to take off my glass. Like if I have like, say something as small as this font on this.
On your, why is your floss right there with you? That's amazing. You were very healthy.
What's wrong with having? Tom, the question you should ask is why don't
is
you
mine?
have?
No, that's a good question.
Where's
You
your
have
floss?
everything
You're right.
else in your life except font.
Yeah.
But like anything smaller than the small type on this, I have to take my glasses off in the store, like I'm reading a medicine bottle label.
Wait, you have to take your glasses off.
Because they're for farsighted or for nearsightedness.
I'm
not for
nearsighted.
I
So
got it.
So like I'll
Yeah.
do this, and I feel like I'm old guy. Like,
See, when I first got this monitor, I didn't wear glasses.
oh, it made you
That's
wear
how old-
glasses.
Let
There, I
this
have
be a lesson
correlated
to
data.
all you big monitor people.
If you get a big monitor, you're gonna wear big glasses.
That's right. Yeah.
No, and I put it off. I didn't go. I went to the eye doctor for the first time in 2013 after having my previous eye doctor appointment happen in 1986.
Ooh.
And when I went to the eye doctor in 2013, I was like, I don't want them to tell me. And they said, you don't need glasses. You're fine. That was the last time. 2014, they're like, you probably need reading glasses. And now I need progressives. But yeah, I went from 1986 to 2013 without going to the eye doctor. And so I say this because like, I totally understand where you're coming from, Sarah. You're just like, no, I don't want to go there. Cause once you're there, you're stuck there.
Well, and the thing is like, I actually think like, it depends on the person, but glasses are a cool look. It's not that I don't want to wear them.
Mm-hmm.
It's
you
just,
don't want to have to.
It's one more thing that I just have to worry about.
The big hang up for me was like, I don't want to have to remember to put something on in the morning to read something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know what? You get used to it. It happens automatically.
True.
You don't even notice.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to anyway. Once you read by like, I can't read this. Where are my glasses?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was doing this where I was reading my phone out here, like
I mean,
all the way at the end of my arm.
Everything I read is like as far away as it can be, and like I was saying about the OxyClean thing, like not even kidding. Like I was like, how do I use this detergent? Like I was like trying so hard to read it, and I couldn't get it far away enough. Like I can't read things anymore. Too small.
We will all decide whether we're getting LASIK surgery for the audio listeners, but video folks, that's it for you. Thanks for watching. Audio folks, stick around. There's medical decisions still to come.